So now our next talk will be from Germany. Our next speaker will be from Germany, Sven from a testing toolsmith at the OLX group, who will talk about learning to like meetings again.
Yes, hello.
Hi, how are you?
I'm mostly fine, like I'm feeling a little bit sickish today, so I might have to drink a little bit more during the talk, but I'm fine. I'm looking forward to talk about this topic because it goes really near to me. And it's something which is really dear to me because I will talk about this later, like how I changed from a person who really despise meetings to a person who likes to facilitate them even more.
So did it also include a change in your role? But you will get to that for sure.
Not really. So I changed my role already. Like I'm working for a different company, and for some reason it didn't. I sent it, but nevertheless, so it's not really changing a role. I'm more like being a jack of all trades in this case. So when people ask like, "Oh, there's a meeting. We need a facilitator?" I'm like, "Okay, let's do it."
All right, but the floor is yours. Take it away.
Thank you. So hello everyone. I'm just waiting for my slides right now, but let's talk a little bit about me. So I'm basically working right now as a software crafter and facilitator at BKKVBU, which is a health insurer here in Germany. And I'm also mentoring new team members and trying to improve the techniques, how they write software, how they do different things. So that's one of the reasons why I really enjoyed the keynote today with the no estimations. This is something which is, I think, super important to have also get a little bit different approach in things when it comes to this thing as in meetings. I'm also a traveler, so I love to travel, and during traveling, everything is always different. So, and occasionally I'm tweeting at Crafting Tester. I didn't do it for the last year. I'm usually doing it when I'm on conferences or when the conference season is going on. So, and the last year was a little bit scarce. So I'm really hoping that things will get better next year. So let's talk a little bit about my old me. So as I teased before, like I was a person, I still am a person who is really anxious, being a background character. I'm an introvert, even though people never believe me that I am. I'm kind of anxious, as I said before, and I'm always having kind of a little bit imposter syndrome. I still have it. So the last 2 days were like, how do I get out of this? But in the end, I really enjoyed talking about this topic, so I really wanted to do this. I was often in these kind of meetings, as I said, like there are sometimes people in these meetings who take the lead, who bring their ideas, and it's often a one-way conversation. So because of this, I was always afraid to facilitate because I know there will be people who are afraid to speak up, who don't want to be in the spotlight. And so what changed for me? Because obviously now I'm far different. And in the end, I had a mentor. And this is one of the things why I love mentoring too, because I can show people different ways. A new colleague came into my office and they came up with really new ways of working, new ways of dealing with meetings, new ways of finding solutions. And I really loved this. So what did they do? Like the first thing was something which was absolutely atypical, and it was scribble. We had to scribble something. For instance, it was a retrospective, and we should scribble a monster which represents the thing which annoyed us most at the last sprint. So I was like, okay, why should I draw something? It doesn't help me at all. It's nothing really helpful. So, but in the end, I did it. And the next step was make it less scary. So make something which make this monster that you can bear with it, that you can work with it. And this was something which I really liked because it showed it kind of substantially changed me that I can that I basically could see that things can change. And we kept it with us for the whole session. We were allowed to share with the others, but we didn't need to. And this was one thing I really enjoyed too. And naturally, as I said, like, I was a very skeptical person. I was like, okay, why it doesn't feel as it works. Yeah, I didn't like it too much in the beginning. In the end, I was really enjoying it. And the next step was like the normal way of a retrospective, though they introduced another thing, which was called One to For All. And I actually wanted to, like, if this would be a real conference, and not a real one, but an in-person conference, I would really like to play this game with you. The idea is that you first think for yourself, like, what is it? What is the thing I want to solve? And I wanted to ask you, like, you should think about yourself what this means. And after that, like for a minute or two, you have already your mind, and you should talk to a second person, share your ideas. How do you see things different? And this is a really interesting way of getting the input of everyone in the room, not only by one person or by the loudest persons, because everyone can contribute. And after like 10 minutes, when the people were talking to each other and sharing their ideas, the next step would be you go together with 4 people. So you make the group bigger and you share what your findings and so on. So the next step would be everyone goes together and talks about their findings, which is really interesting, because in each group you usually have one person who likes to speak up and some other people who are like me, like a background character, don't want to be in the spotlight and presenting those ideas, but everyone is heard. And this creates also an open discussion, because it's not like 5 people are talking, 2 people in the back, and don't feel really well with it. And this is a so-called liberating structure. There are a lot more. Let's talk about those liberating structures. It's something this colleague implemented in our daily workflow, and they implemented more and more of those, which I really like. It's a set of techniques, something which has been developed, and they are designed to involve everyone. So there are a lot of them. There's not only the one for all where I'm talking about. There's one for which you could use for solving problems. There's one for starting a process. There's another one for literally everything. So there's one which we used, which I really enjoyed, for a project kickoff. So we had like different stations, and we had like a leader at each station. And the idea was that we as a team go around and have a topic at one of those stations and talk with this person, the leader, and they wrote down the ideas from each group. And but I'm coming to this one a little bit later, because there was another one we did with our internal customers, which was also very nice. They are easy to learn, so they usually don't need you to go to a session and learn about them. It's usually 3 to 4 points you have to remember, and this is quite easy to do. And they are usually fun, because it's not like the typical meeting where you sit there and someone is presenting and you can chip in if you want, but because it gives you the opportunity to talk about it. And you can read about this either in the book, The Surprising Powers of Liberating Structures, by Henry Lipowitz and Keith McCandless, or you can go to the website liberatingstructures.com and read about them. There are 33, I think, nowadays. And a few examples of those are the 15% solutions, which is basically, what are the 15% you can give right now without any new resources or new time constraints? What can you do to improve your problem? And this is one of the liberating. Another one is TRIS, which basically analyzes what can go wrong, what are those things are you doing, and how can we mitigate those? A third one is the conversation cafe, which I talked a little bit before. Like, you have a set of tables, you have a person sitting at this table and writing down notes, and you have people changing between those tables all often. And you have the W3, which is basically what happened, so what, what's the impact, and why do we care, and now what? How do we deal with this problem now? And as I said, like, there are a couple of more, and for each reasoning, there is something in there which I really like. So after seeing this, I actually switched my company, going to a new one, and start building trust with my superior, with my line manager, with the people around me, that I am so that I really want to also facilitate those meetings because I really like these techniques and I really want to use them. So I was in a very lucky situation because we had an offsite and there was kind of a call for participation. So if people want to involve themselves to facilitate meetings, and I pitched a couple of them, and two of them actually got accepted. One was a team rules meeting, and the second one, which is not a liberating structure, but I really enjoy these kind of meetings too. It's like a bare bone event. It was bare bone event storming because this is something you have to learn before, but the way how we did it, it was just the first step, and it was not that complicated to do. And the team rules meeting, again, we used the liberating structure where I set like a min max. So it's called min max, where we basically write down all the things out of the teams, like what do you really want to have as a rule, and write down kind of brainstorming. We did it again with one for all because it was a quite big group, and writing down our should goals, and then we went through all of those and like, is this really a necessary rule? Is this necessary rule? And this is necessary rule. So we came up basically with a list of rules where everyone said like, okay, those are necessary for us to work together. This was quite important because most of the team was situated in India and we were situated in Germany. So we need to have really clear rules where we can communicate with each other. And this offsite was fortunately not remote, because those kind of meetings get a little bit more complicated in a remote context. But there's a bonus in this presentation where I'm going a little bit deeper into the remote thing because it's a topic now. And the barebone event storming was really interesting because I do, again, like meetings which are not the typical, like, we do something and we get it. And how did I do it? So, as I said before, I built a lot of trust with my team and with my line manager that I can have a value out of this. And one thing which is super important is to communicate a goal beforehand. So what is the goal? Like for the rules meeting, we want to have rules set in stone for everyone in the team to be on the same page. For the event storming, we want to have a big picture map of our whole application. And this is important. Be always prepared. I think it's for meetings, it's important, but for those kind of meetings, it's even more important because you have often a big group of people and they they see you as the facilitator, and if you're struggling, they will realize it. Sometimes you have to be patient. As I said, like there are people who will be skeptical, who you have to take by your hand. But on the other hand, there are also people who are introvert and they don't want to be in the spotlight. And if you put them in the spotlight, people will also react differently. So you have to know your team. You have to know how your team behaves. And are there any problems which occurred in this time? And I think, yes, they were. Especially, as I said, like introvert colleagues, they are often not the people you see who speak up or who want to be in the spotlight. And I, I'm sometimes a person like this too, so I can really understand why they don't want to be this, and it costs them a lot of energy. Again, skeptic people, etc. You have to explain what you do. You have to explain the values. You have to explain sometimes the rules, and there could be also a lack of preparation. So if you're struggling again. And I think management is not seeing value in those meetings because sometimes those meetings take a lot of time. And again, for this one, you have to prove there is a value. For instance, next week, I'm doing a risk storming because we wanted to have a risk strategy. So I basically said them, okay, this is what I want to do. This is the agenda. This is how it works. And this will be the output. So be very clear about the output and and then often management is up to do it. Sometimes they are not, but it really depends on your people. So as I said before, I teased a little bit. So what about remote? I think remote becomes nowadays even more a topic. And those kind of meetings are harder to do remotely. So it is possible, but the big but in this case is you have to be even prepare more. So I did a couple of those meetings now online, and I always sat beforehand with the people involved, with some co-moderators, and we were planning everything beforehand. This means you need proper tooling. Tooling is super important if you want to do breakout rooms. For instance, you have to prepare breakout rooms in Zoom or whatever tool you're using. You have to maybe build the groups beforehand. You have to be strict on the timing. You have to have a really good agenda. Another thing which I realized is pauses are super important. It's not like you are on an offsite where people walk around, where people just where they can be a little bit distracted by other things. So you do more pauses than usual. It's kind of a similar like thing I realized. Like I started to driving motorcycle now, and in a car I can go for 8 hours, but while I'm going on a motorcycle after 2 hours, I'm feeling like super sour and I need a break. So it's very similar to this because I can be in a lot of meetings because often it's not. I have the feeling that Zoom drains a lot of power, or these kind of remote meetings drain a lot of power of yourself. Coming back to the tooling, as I said, like you need a proper tooling, you need to be prepared, you need to get everyone on board. And I think this is something which in the first meetings I wasn't aware of. So I was just, okay, let's set up a Zoom room, everyone will join in and we will be fine. No, it's not. Be careful and don't do this on your own. So again, the first meetings I did this on my own. I felt even more drained as all the others, so I had to take a day off afterwards. Um, it's often better if you share responsibilities. So there should be someone moderating, facilitating. There should be someone reading the chat and asking the people. There should be someone who is in charge of boards. Like for example, if you use Miro or whatever, or Mural or whatever else, you need to have someone who is in charge of this. And you maybe also need someone who's just there to read the faces and give you some hints like, am I talking too fast? Am I talking too slow? Am I boring the people? So this is super important. And coming back to the people, I think it is crucial that you see the faces of everyone because, again, like you have to read them. You have to read, are the people exhausted? Are the people ready for this? And if you're in a room, you really grasp this really quickly. But in a Zoom or in a remote setup, it's really hard to do this. Therefore, I really would say don't do it alone. Have the cameras on, have everyone brief before. And so this was a little bit what I've seen so far, which helped me a lot. And again, like next week, I will do this risk storming, which I'm also preparing right now. So what I'm doing is, again, I was showing value. I was showing what what is the goal? What do we want to do? I gave the people time to prepare before. So I sent them the agenda already. I sent them the link to the risk storming online board where they can read about the cards because it's not as easy if you have them physical in front of you. So send them to the people in front. Give them an agenda, including pauses. Give them reason to read this and invite the correct people. I mean, usually, like if you have meetings and you invite everyone, it's not the right thing. And even nowadays with remote, it becomes even more complicated. So this is what I've learned so far, and what I really enjoyed about this. And this is also the journey I took so far. So as a kind of resume, I think the way how I learned to be this person I am now was mostly because I got the right techniques, I got people who are supporting me, and I got the company supporting me. And I became more and more a person involved in those things and enjoying what I'm doing now. And nowadays I'm like the person to go to if there are some kind of things to clarify and things to change in our workflows. So, and this is something I was really, really enjoying. So I think I'm mainly done with my things a little bit early. I'm sorry about this. I calculated a little bit wrongly, but I think there might be a lot of questions from your side. So let's just switch to your side. Of
If yeah, I'm here now. So, do we have any questions on workshop? At the moment, it seems like we don't yet. But I have some questions of my own. So first of all, thank you. And you mentioned in the very beginning that people don't believe you're an introvert. I know the feeling. A colleague of mine and myself, we at some point some years ago we discussed this, and we found that we are doesn't translate too well, but we are like introverts who somehow weirdly like to have some attention sometimes, but
yeah.
so but some questions that I put down while listening. So first of all, how exactly do you build trust?
I think if you're already for a long time in a company, you have to show your value. You have to show that you can deliver. So if you're delivering your stuff on time, if you're or not even on time, but if you're either if you're thinking about your programming work, your testing work, you deliver it either on time or you give the right information. So, for example, for instance, we came this far. This was our goal, but we didn't reach it. But you give the right amount of information and be transparent. I think being transparent is the most important thing you have to be in this case. So this is one part, obviously. Building trust before leading a facilitating meeting. You have to take over sometimes. So you have to, like, one thing I really did was our Scrum Master was sick, so I was basically taking over, and it was fortunately a session where there was also like middle management involved, and they saw already I can do something, and I also believe in something. Another thing was we did a postmortem, and I took kind of really the lead, but I again try to facilitate this and create value out of this. So it's a long process, and you won't get the full trust in the very beginning. But yeah, I think be transparent, be integer, show that you can deliver what you promise. I think this is the most important thing.
So no easy shortcuts to do that.
No, unfortunately not. I mean, we're all people. So would you trust someone if they don't deliver?
No, but I have read that first impressions go a long way, and if you make a good one, it's hard to sort of ruin your reputation. On the other hand, if your first impression is bad, then you should probably change companies again quickly. Anyway, so some questions now coming from Workshop. So first of all, now having the experience with remote and face-to-face meetings, which brings more value?
I think it depends on the meeting itself. So, for instance, it's we were doing this event storming remotely and in person, and the remote one was productive, but not as productive as the in-person one. Plus, it's really hard to go in detail. So I think for these kind of meetings where you want to involve everyone, it's always better to have everyone in the same room because you have less friction. You don't have to move people around in rooms because if you're in the same room and you want to do the one to for all, you just say like you and you are a group, you and you are a group, or find your partner in the group so you don't have to do it in advance. So people can just work together. So I think these kind of meetings are far more effective in person. That's one of the reasons why I try to have, I will work from home remotely most of the time, even after Corona. So this is something I made pretty clear because I do like my working from home routine. Though if there are meeting heavy days, I will come in the office, and we might even think about having this kind of meeting heavy days, like really at 1 day or 2 days, and then do a lot of those meetings, even though I'm not sure if this is the best idea either. So let's see. But I think they are more effective in person, but we have good substitutes.
Yeah, thanks. So another question. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and confirming why should I do this instead of real work. But the one who asked the question still hasn't understood how did you get rid of that feeling, because work is what you are paid for, not for chattering.
Yes, that's true. But for instance, the value of something like for let's think about a postmortem. You had something popping up which destroyed a sprint, which made a project go really badly. You can learn from this for the next projects. So obviously, like chattering is not work, but if you have create something with value out of it, or let's say you will have to create a risk strategy, so where the idea of the teams are involved, and this is always better. Like, I mean, when you think in an agile context, you're also chattering a lot by creating a backlog, refining this, and building up your backlog, and then doing a planning. This is also chattering, and you can do it without, but it's not as effective as if you did proper planning or did proper retrospectives or did proper ideas. So if for instance, if you want to go into domain-driven design, you need to know your domain. You need to know how to cut your domain, because otherwise you start up cutting services in the wrong way. So this will cost you more in the end, and also your company more in the end, because you're building things wrongly. So obviously, I'm not only paid for the code I'm writing, I'm also paid for the ideas I'm bringing. I'm also paid for improving our. I think this creates a lot of value for every company, or not every, but most of them. I hope this answers your question.
Yeah, it's pretty clear to me as well now. So basically, we tend to think sometimes that work is something we do alone when we concentrate on typing something on our computer, and that's it. But no, well, you have to do it right as well, and this kind of gave me a flashback to my first NTD 9 years ago, when I was on stage, and the conclusion of my talk was that the thing that saves the day is communication. If you get that right, and meetings are a form of communication, and a pretty efficient one at that. Yep. So next question here is: are those tips applicable to the routine regular meetings like daily stand-up, planning, grooming, and retrospectives?
I think especially for retrospective, they are always applicable because retrospectives, like for us, we do literally every week a different one. So I think retrospectives are very open to this one. Um, Also, the one to for all technique, it depends if you want to collect information, but especially for refinements, there's something you want to discuss. You have a topic, and if you want to have the ideas of everyone, this could be a good idea. Also, like for a daily, I don't think a daily meeting is usually like people talking about what they did, what they want to do. I mean, I often see those kind of obsolete in the meaning of people are talking usually far too much in a daily stand-up. I think it's usually more important, like, are there any problems and what I'm going to do today? And for this one, it's so short and so on the point, and you get anyways the information of everyone. So this is not really important. But I think, especially retrospective, sometimes for refinements, this can be a way to get the input of more shy colleagues or more, maybe even more inexperienced colleagues, because the input of a junior or a new joiner could be so valuable because they don't see the world as you see it. Because usually, if you're in a company for a while, you're blind. You only see the way you work. And if someone new comes in, they ask sometimes stupid questions, but these questions are super interesting for you because they question the way you work, and this can bring a lot of value. And therefore, I think for those kind of meetings, it could be valuable to at least do the one to for all, because it's the which you can literally mix into everything, because it's just takes a little bit longer because you have to people talk together first. But yeah, that's my take on it.
Mm-hmm. And I would also agree that when a newcomer asks what even they themselves can think of as a stupid question, and it usually isn't. It's, you really need to consider that. The way we've always done it is not definitely the right way always. Right. So a couple more questions coming in from Workshop. So how to direct meetings back on topic as a participant? So not as a facilitator, but participant.
I think for this one, you need to have, like, we had really good rules for this one. We had an elbow. I'm not sure if you heard this. Like, this is it's actually from Sesame Street, but it's like, enough, let's move on, which was like a small figure we had in the room. And if someone was talking and talking and talking about some kind of side topics and going into like those kind of speaking with each other and having this kind of, I don't know how to say it in English right now, I'm sorry, but you know, this kind of talks when two people are super deep into the topic and just drifting apart. We basically were throwing this small figure, this Elmo, and said like, enough, let's move on. Come on, let's go back to topic. So this was one of the things which often helped because it created also a little bit of a playful atmosphere. But you can also say like an Elmo, or you can honk or something like this way. But always bring it to the big group and have something where people can enjoy. I think this is the way I did it so far. But I'm not sure if this works for your team. But this would be a good idea. Or not sure. I hope this answers your question.
But it definitely has to do with agreeing on the rules, and if you're not the facilitator, you can always turn to the facilitator later for the next meeting and say that we have this problem. Can we have a rule on this? Because usually most people in the meeting are all for moving on. If it's two people or one person going on a tangent, then basically just someone needs to speak up and say, take this offline. This is not something that the whole group needs to be hearing right now. Right, or maybe even that it could be an important topic, but you can come back to it or make a separate meeting for that, because yeah, you have to keep things on topic.
And that's why I
Then
also
another,
said like, oh,
yeah,
sorry, keep going.
another question here. Some people are very introverted and shy. Well, we know about that. How do you deal with them? Are they allowed to skip the meetings or not to turn on the webcam?
That's a good question. So I think we have the rule that the webcam have to be on, because it's always better, because you as a facilitator can read the people, but also you can read for yourself. But I can, like, we have sometimes people who also don't want to show themselves all the time. So I know this can be very intimidating to have the camera on all the time, but I think you have to talk to them, honestly. So everything is about talking. And if they really don't feel to do this, then you might need to find another way to communicate to them if there is a problem, or if they are afraid to talk, speak up, or if they don't see themselves really in the meeting. So I would not say like you have to force them, because this will again be very negative for those people, and they will feel not really welcome in your team. So I think having proper rules again, and giving them an opportunity to join if they want, and maybe give them also just a little bit more free room. And I think giving them a hand and saying them, I will support you, will also help too. But I think one thing which is really important for introvert people is letting them, or also shy people, letting them decide if they want to do it, but have rules around it.
Yeah, that sounds good. And the tip, if you are one of those people, you can do what I do, because in my morning meetings or even longer meetings during the day, what I usually do, if I don't have to take notes or present slides or whatever, I take my laptop or my iPad and I walk around the room or back and forth inside my living space. So if I have the camera on, other people in the meeting can get nauseous and they ask me to turn it off. So so there's that.
Could be kind of a cheeky way.
But yeah, it's I do agree that it's usually good to have the camera on, because there was one good sort of suggestion, because to keep the camera on always, because if you have a difficult topic that you want to discuss where you need to see the person's reactions on their face, and you only have cameras on for those meetings, then it's a signal that, oh, we're going to have a serious talk because I was asked to turn my camera on now. I don't want that. The association that camera always means that it will be something bad.
True.
So we need to be able to have fun with that. So we have actually, yeah, on the timer still 50 seconds, but actually no more questions from Worksup, and my own questions. Well, we don't have enough time to go into that, because those could be longer discussions. But
I mean,
thank you.
I'm always.
And
I just want to say, like, I'm always available for either in the Ministry of Testing Slack, or I'm also available on Twitter and like LinkedIn, email. So feel free to ask questions. I'm always open for doing this. So sorry for interrupting you.
no, it's okay. It's basically you know these interruptions are what happens in online meetings. If there's more people than two, then it's even worse like that, because there's a bit of a lag, and when you feel that there's a pause, you start talking, and that, oh, there's a collision.
Yeah, true.
I was wondering about your T-shirt, but you mentioned Ministry of Testing, so I think it's
It is.
it is an MOT shirt there. Yeah,
It is
there
an
we
MOT
go.
shirt.
Yeah, yeah. For me, it's the yeah. don't talk. No, it actually says don't talk to me when I'm watching the race, but it's yeah. But anyway, thank you. There was another question on the workshop page, but we don't have time for that anymore. Sorry. Anyway,
They can keep asking me.
yeah, you can contact all the speakers directly as well on workshop, and or you have the contact information on the website as well. So anyway, thank you again. Like I said at the end of the previous talk, now is the point where I would give you your present and we would have an applause, so you can write clap clap in the Q&A section. Last time someone wrote it there. Thank you for that. It feels really good if people are actually appreciating it. So so thanks, and we will move on now to the next speaker.